So we will call to order our Tuesday, August 16th City Council meeting. Can we start with the roll?
Councilman Becker.
Here.
Councilman Hartwick. Here. Councilman Johnson.
Here.
Councilman Schultz.
Here.
President Scheer.
Here. Agenda item 3 is public hearings. This evening we have none. Agenda item 4 is public comment. Just a reminder, the City Council will receive comments from city residents. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per individual. Anyone wishing to speak is required to sign up in advance or state the following items for the record when called upon. That would be name, address, subject matter, and contact information. No action will be taken on any public comments unless the item is also elsewhere in the agenda. Do we have anybody signed up in person?
No, we do not.
All right, this will be a first call for public comment, either in person or on Zoom. This is a second call for public comment. This is a third and final call for public comment. Seeing none, hearing none, we will move right along. Agenda item number 5 is our consent agenda. The consent agenda that is outlined is presented for action by the City Council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda on the request of any one council member. Items not removed may be adopted by one action without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the council president.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I think it's just important to note that there are trick or treat hours listed in there, so you can start making plans already. We do have a motion and a second. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Agenda item 6 is petitions, requests, and communications. 6A is the review and possible action relating to the annexation agreement by and among the City of Fort Atkinson and Tip of the Spear LLC.
Thank you. Ryan Qualm, on behalf of the property owner, Tip of the Spear LLC, requested the annexation of 2 properties located on the north side of Campus Drive from the town of Koshkonong to the City of Fort Atkinson. The parcels were purchased in May of 2021 with the goal of urban development within the city. The request for annexation has been reviewed by the State Department of Administration and has found to be in the public interest. The Plan Commission reviewed the request at the meeting on July 26th and recommended council approval. The council has already performed 2 readings of the ordinance on the second meeting in July and the first meeting in August. And is scheduled to perform the 3rd reading tonight later in the agenda. Upon review of the request, staff did find an outstanding special assessment on the parent parcel from which these 2 parcels were split in the early 2000s. That deferred special assessment was for water, sewer, sidewalk, and road improvements to Campus Drive completed in 1999 and totaled $39,713.05. Staff has been working with the property owner to negotiate an annexation agreement to address the special assessment and the 2 single-family dwellings that are on the 2 parcels. These 2 parcels that are on private well and private septic at this time. So the property owner has agreed to pay for half of the special assessment, or $19,856.53 over 10 years upon annexation. Other items of note in the annexation agreement include just that there is one single family dwelling on each of these 2 parcels currently. So the zoning requested through the annexation will be RS2, single family residential. The agreement, the annexation agreement outlines that those single family dwellings may continue to be occupied under the current city zoning ordinance while located within the city on a private well and private septic until such time that the parcels are redeveloped in concert with the city's comprehensive plan or by June 30th, 2025. So if those 2 single family dwellings continue to exist and remain occupied on June 30th, 2025, then those dwellings will be required to hook into city water and sewer at the expense of the property owner. Nothing in the agreement prohibits the houses or the property owner from hooking them into city water and sewer ahead of that date. But what the goal of this was to not unnecessarily have the property owner pay to hook into water and sewer for these two houses if they were going to be demolished and redeveloped within the next 4 years. Okay. So staff does recommend that the city council review and approve this annexation agreement between the city of Fort Atkinson and Tip of the Spear LLC. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Rebecca, can you just confirm for my knowledge, is the standard process that the agreement is approved before the actual ordinance of the annexing would, I mean, because the way we have it, that would be getting approved before the official ordinance would. Is that standard? Is that how it needs to work?
So the annexation agreements are not always necessary.
Okay,
This is a special case due
Because
to
of
the
the-
deferred special assessment and the condition of the two parcels.
okay,
We wanted this to come before the final annexation because if the council and the property owner did not agree to this annexation agreement, then my recommendation would be that the council not annex those two parcels.
perfect. Makes sense. Thank you.
Rebecca, can you explain how the amount of 50% of the special assessment was reached? Was that based on any sort of precedent, or was there other reasoning involved?
This is a unique situation. There was a parent parcel that the special assessment is levied against. That parent parcel was split. These two parcels benefit from the infrastructure improvements, but there is no special assessment on these two parcels.
Okay.
So this is a way for the parcels that benefit to pay for a portion of the special assessment. But they are not actually recorded against these parcel numbers because these parcel numbers did not exist at the time.
Sure.
So there are still the remainder of the special assessment will remain outstanding against the parent parcel.
And that ultimately means what?
That
because
ultimately
technically that
means-
doesn't exist anymore.
Well, the parent parcel still exists.
Okay,
It's located along Banker Road. So when they subdivided those parcels, they created a CSM in the early 2000s, and the special assessment remained with the parent parcel. And it did not get transferred any part of to the other parcels.
okay,
So the remaining special assessment is still associated with that parent parcel that is located in the town of Koshkonong along Banker Road. And the goal is when that and the other privately owned parcel along Banker Road come into the city, they will be responsible for the other half of the special assessment.
Is Rebecca, is the parent parcel the one that on the map that we have? I think it's designated as CSM 3015.
The parcel number ends in 04. So the parent parcel would, on the map that you have, it says lot 1 CSM 3482. That was the parent parcel.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah, okay.
Any other questions from the council?
I move to authorize the city manager to sign the annexation agreement by and among the city of Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin and Tip of Spear LLC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. It takes us to agenda item 7, resolutions and ordinances. 7A is the third and final reading of an ordinance annexing the territory located at W6490 Campus Drive and W6492 Campus Drive to the city of Fort Atkinson.
Thank you. So this is the third reading of the ordinance annexing the two parcels that we just talked about with the annexation agreement. The city is looking to considering the creation of a tax increment district in this area. and including these parcels in that tax increment district. So the parcels must be located within the city in order to be included in that. As I mentioned before, the applicant has requested that the property, the two parcels be zoned RS2, single family residential. And just noting that in the future, depending on the planned uses, the zoning may be changed to a denser residential or mixed use zoning district. However, rezoning to this less intense use is ideal. The comprehensive plan shows the future land use of the parcels as planned neighborhood, which includes both single family residential as well as single family, two family, multifamily, and neighborhood business uses. So the zoning requested complies with the comprehensive plan. A new zoning designation in the future would relating to multifamily or mixed use would also be in concert with the comprehensive plan. As I mentioned, the State Department of Administration has found this annexation to be in the public interest. The Plan Commission did review and recommend council approval, and the council did perform two readings of this ordinance already at previous council meetings. So with that, staff does recommend that the council perform the third reading of the ordinance and take action to adopt it as drafted.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the ordinance annexing the territory located at W6490 Campus Drive and W6492 Campus Drive to the city of Fort Atkinson.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Schultz.
Aye.
President Shear.
Aye, the motion carries. Agenda item 8 is reports of officers, boards, and committees. 8A is the city manager's report.
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to thank our hardworking staff and election officials who administered a free, fair, and transparent election on Tuesday, August 9th. Congratulations to Michelle and her team for flawlessly executing yet another election. So congratulations and thank you to everybody who assisted in those efforts. Staff continues to work with Hoffman Development Group and Cedar Prize on the Banker Road project. We had hoped to introduce them, the team at tonight's meeting, but they will be here in September, where we also plan to have a master development agreement for council review. As mentioned briefly previously, the staff does continue to work on developing two new tax increment districts, one on the northwest side of the city and one on the northeast side of the city. The city council will have a workshop relating to these new potential new tax increment districts prior to the regular council meeting on September 6th. And the first public hearing for those tax increment districts will be on September 27th in front of the Joint Review Board, which includes representation from all of our taxing jurisdictions. The city closed on its first loan through the Capital Catalyst Revolving Loan Fund with Pete's Tire on August 8th. You can already see the improvements to the property at 2 Madison Avenue, supported by the loan. The city received another loan application, and that loan review committee and Economic Development Commission will meet within the next 2 weeks or so to give that a look. And if everything works out, we will have another loan. Staff had our initial meeting with the architects from Engberg Anderson on August 9th relating to the DPW facility. As most people understand, our public works operations facility has been in disrepair for many years. Eventually, we would love to see our facility reflect the hardworking public works and park staff that we have that use it, as well as the high quality work they perform. This work often is taken for granted because we tend to expect it, but behind every well-maintained park and every concrete patch on Janesville Avenue are our people, and we do appreciate them. So I just wanted to give them a plug. I will be speaking on a panel at the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Chief Executives Conference later this week on August 18th and 19th in Brookfield. I'll be speaking about the city's efforts at generating new housing, and I hope to learn more about what other communities are doing as well. Finally, TDS will be beginning a fiber installation project in the city this fall within the public rights of way. They will be kicking off their project in September and intend to have a kickoff meeting to introduce themselves to the council and public. So be on the lookout for that once it is scheduled. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Agenda item 9, finished business. This evening we have none. Agenda item 10, new business. 10A is the review and possible action relating to the state municipal agreement for the Transportation Alternatives Program projects.
Okay, so oh, Andy, are you here?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry. Good evening. So I don't think anyone on council is a stranger to these state municipal agreements. They're essentially contracts between the DOT and the city of Fort Atkinson. This one is covering 2 different projects that we were awarded a grant for. The first is the Janesville Avenue corridor plan. The grant application that we put forward essentially allows us to plan from about the Robert Street Bridge down to the southern limits of the city, which would be near the Clement Business Park. This is part of the comprehensive plan, has been, I think, a to-do in the comprehensive plan for a number of years, and has come up, I think the last time, probably a few years ago, when we were talking about some of the challenges with pedestrians navigating this corridor, in particular at Jones Park. This round of funding or this particular grant opportunity really matched well, I think, with not only this but the Main Street corridor plan, and we were happy to be awarded this. The Janesville Avenue plan is a $40,000 budget. The state / federal government will pay 80% of that, and the city will pay 20%. The other corridor, as I mentioned, is Main Street. That planning area will occur from about Madison Avenue south to roughly Casey's in that area. Unlike Janesville, I think we'll probably go block east and west of Main Street as well through the downtown and encompass that general area within the planning area. That's going to focus quite a bit on trying to create more appealing streetscape, more appealing aesthetics, a big push towards better pedestrian navigation through there, in particular crossing Main Street, but also moving parallel with Main Street. A lot of our infrastructure in that area, although the old buildings look great, the old sidewalk and infrastructure does not. So we'll look at trying to kind of put together a bit of a recipe for a renewed downtown among various types of transportation. That project is budgeted at $35,000, and again, we'll be paying for 20% of that. The project itself, the state municipal agreement or the contract, needs to be signed rather quickly in order to meet the fiscal year 22 deadline that the state is under. This is part of the larger infrastructure act that came down through the feds here within the last 6 months or so. So we do have to sign this contract before, I believe it's mid-September, or the end of September, sorry, is when the federal fiscal year ends. But our timeline to complete the project is 4 years. So we have to have this done by 2026. My intent is to get an RFP out as quickly as we can for this and begin planning to bring a consultant on board to pursue both of these. I think we'll put these out as the same project and hopefully hire one consultant to do both. The reason for the haste there is that once we get this plan done, there still is time. We have until about 2026 or 7, I believe, where the federal infrastructure bill funding is in place. So if we identify some projects, we do have the opportunity to apply for funding for implementation, which would be nice to take advantage of that. So a lot of information in front of you. I'd be happy to answer any questions council might have associated with that.
Andy, this is Megan. I just have 2 things. So one, just to clarify, the estimated costs in here for each of these, that is just reflective of the planning study work that needs to be done, correct? To then plan out whatever the scope of the actual full project would look like?
Absolutely, yeah. There are no implementation costs in here whatsoever.
Okay, And then, you know, I think just for, for public record's sake, because, you know, road repair and roads in general is a very common theme that people like to highlight their opinions about. Can you just explain a little bit about what you and your, you know, department and the process of what goes into applying for these grants? I just think it's important to highlight the work that actually is being done to try to secure additional funding like this well outside of general tax levy dollars to ensure that projects like this can actually happen in our community.
Yeah, so there's been a number of there's quite a bit of money coming down into the state from the federal government, and it's coming into a number of different grant programs, some of which are new, some of which are old. This particular funding opportunity is the TAP, the Transportation Assistance Program. That program has been in place for a number of years. We've applied to different grants or two different projects for that over probably the last 4 years. It comes in a 2-year cycle. It requires, it's largely my time. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 15 hours or so per grant application to assemble the, you know, kind of a good pitch, if you will, and then a reasonable cost estimate to go along with it, and then those go to the DOT for review. They're fairly competitive. We've done a lot of kind of phone calls and things like that to the DOT to remind them of our particular grant applications and why we're so much better than everyone else and these things. And we've been successful. We've done very well in some very competitive grant environments through the state. So it does take some time. And it is important, as you noted, Councilman Hartwick, that these funds are not part of the city taxpayer funding that we allocate to roadwork every year. These are above and beyond that. I mean, certainly all of these grant funds are obviously taxpayer funded in some form, but these are funds that are more competitive, and we're always working to try to get as much money into the city as we can for various infrastructure improvements.
Thanks, Andy. I just think it's important to highlight that. I think sometimes it's easy to recognize what isn't being done, but we don't always take the time to recognize the extra effort that is being done to allow projects like this to happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, unless you guys have
Any
questions.
additional questions?
Yeah, I move to authorize the city manager to sign the state municipal agreement for the transportation alternatives program projects.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Agenda item number 11, miscellaneous. This evening we have none. Agenda item 12, claims, appropriations, and contract payments. 12A is the review and possible action relating to the verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorization of payment.
I move to approve the list of verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and to authorize payment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Schultz,
Aye.
President Scheer.
Aye, that motion carries. Agenda item 13 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hit it, Bruce. This meeting is adjourned.